After I was diagnosed with ALS, it was confirmed. They tell you these things and they begin to tell you all these stats. You know, the average lifespan once diagnosed, and all the different things that can and will happen, and all this other medical stuff that they tell you. All I heard was I was going to die, and my brain went, oh, bleep, and shut down. I just, my brain couldn't take it anymore. It was just like, okay, I've had enough of this conversation. So I went through the rest of the appointment. I couldn't even tell you what was said or anything. Honestly, I couldn't. And then, as I'm driving home, I've got all these things in my mind. Of course, I'm telling people, letting people know. But my first thoughts were, okay, what do I need to do now? How do I make sure that my mother is going to be okay? My partner Brian is going to be okay. My family in general is going to be okay. My friends. You know, all the people in my life, I'm like, are these people are going to be okay? Not that I'm all that in a bag of chips. I'm just, I know how death impacts people. The closer you are to people, the more impactful it is. And all I could think about is, I don't want these people to be sad. I don't want them to have to go through all the things that you have to go through when someone passes away. And I know you can't prevent it completely, but you can take some of the sting away. And so I started figuring out what it was I needed to do for end of life. I decided that I would do my own memorial video, and I've got it created already. Um, I wrote my own obituary. I did a farewell video. I've written letters to family and friends. And I am in the process of trying to get all of the funeral arrangements planned and taken care of. I already know what I want done as far as things like that are concerned, um, right down to the suit I want to be wearing for the viewing. Um, so there's a lot of things I'm still working on, like I'm trying to get all the legal stuff in place to make it easier for people. But I want to try to make it easier for decisions to be made if it's already been made for them. Plans already handled. Because quite frequently, I've known people who don't do this, and it is a huge burden on the individuals having to manage after someone's died. You're dealing with your pain of the loss, and now you've got to go through this whirlwind of things, all the paperwork you got to fill out, and you know, making the funeral arrangements and letting everybody know, and it just goes on and on and on. It is a huge, huge thing uh, that is mentally and physically exhausting, and you are already going through a huge mental issue due to a death. So I want to make sure that as much of that is taken care of. Also, trying to make sure that I'm not leaving behind a huge debt that somebody has to handle when I'm gone. I don't want there to be a fight for anything. I'm going to leave what I leave behind to specific people. But ultimately, what is mine belongs to my partner Brian, and he can decide what beyond that goes to whom. I don't really care. But I want to make sure all the other stuff is important. I don't want people fighting over things because it's just silly. Um, there's no sense in that. I want I want things to be easy for people, and so I I've done all these things to hopefully help ease the pain, ease the things that they have to deal with. But it's not easy. I tell you, it is not an easy thing to do. More people need to do it, and then you need to do it whether you're young or old. You need to put something in place. At least put something in writing so people know what it is you want and how you want things to be. You know, I have to make a decision on whether I want to be resuscitated or not. These are odd things to be having to think about, and I'm not even 48 yet. Soon to be, but not quite. So it's weird having to think about all these things, but it's very empowering. I feel like I have ownership of my death. It doesn't own me. I decide how it's going to be done, and nobody else has to. And I want it done the way I want it done. You know, I was in control of my life, not for not in the early years, but my most of my adulthood, I was very much in charge of everything going on in my life, and I'm very particular on how I like things done. And my death is not going to be any different. I want things done a very particular way. And so I'm making sure that I at least put it in writing. Once I'm gone, other than what I put in writing, you know, people are going to do what they're going to do, and I have no control over that. But at least I'm trying to ease their pain and the things that they have to deal with. So that's sort of how I first initially dealt with the diagnosis. And since then, I put a lot of effort into making sure that I'm not a huge burden on people, trying to stay ahead of this disease as much as I can because it changes so frequently. So you have to get ahead of it by making sure you have all the paperwork filled out for all these different things that you have to fill out for. And there's a ton of it, believe me. I could imagine how much paperwork would be involved in having an illness. It's insane. And knowing you're dying, there's even more paperwork. So I go through all these different things that I have to do to make sure I'm prepared and they're prepared, meaning anybody who's going to be taking care of me. So, you know, making sure I get the breathing equipment, a lift, equipment to do things that need to be done for me. So I'm buying all this stuff and getting loaner devices and ordering through my doctors and insurance different equipment like wheelchairs and things of that nature, and just trying my best to ease the burden on other people, because if you don't have this stuff when it's needed, it can be a big deal, and it can be very difficult for everybody involved, and actually can lead to me getting hurt, my caregiver getting hurt, or even worse, me die. So I'm not ready to die yet, so I don't want to have anything helping me along, you know what I'm saying? So these are the things I've been doing since diagnosed. talk about more later.